I'm from Boston, so of course I was dealing with racism at a young age. I mean, in the 70s there was busing, you know, there was turning over buses in Boston. It was bad in Boston as far as racism goes. If you look at the movie Departed, at the beginning of Departed with Jack Nicholson, you see all that footage there of, you know, this is just kids trying to go to school, and, you know, the white people of Boston wasn't having it. You know, so I really understood racism. The flip side of that is that my father, being heavily into the Italian mob and also heavily into the Irish mob, and for that matter the Jewish mob, like when he was locked up, I've met great men. I would have to go to funerals and sign his name, and, you know, I would have to do his, you know, do my father's dirt, you know what I'm saying? And basically, you know what I'm saying, I've met some great Italian, Irish, Jewish men. So, you know, it's not like I was racist. I just understood racism, and being in Boston, and how, you know, Boston, basically the Irish look out for their own, the Italians look out for their own, and, you know, the black people and Latino people were kind of shut out from everything in Boston. So that's always been in me. I could say I had some, you know, I grew up a heavy Bob Marley fan, George Clinton, you know, I mean, even George Clinton within the P-Funk movement, revolutionary, Gil Scott-Heron, you know, so, you know, I was heavy into, you know, just equal rights for everybody. Like, it doesn't matter how, you know, what color you are, everybody should be treated the same. And that's just how I've always looked at it. And if I seen that being challenged, I would always challenge that. Whether I would fly first class with braids that were half braided, then, you know, somebody's questioning me if I'm supposed to be there. I mean, it doesn't matter. Anything that I see where I'm not being treated equal, somebody's not being treated equal, it was just a natural reaction to try to, if not try to rectify that, just stand up for it. And I remember when Steve Stout, I was working up there, I remember Bass Blaster. You remember Bass Blaster?
Yep.
Yeah, he was a white rapper out of Waterbury, Connecticut. And I remember Steve talking about the need for a white rapper, and because, you know, you got to remember, Vlad, you know, hip hop was something where the white kids of America can put black people on their wall posters and listen to them and really be into them. And I think America wasn't ready for that, you know? So I just think when Eminem came, I don't think he necessarily knew what the future had for him, meaning the whole change from this thing called hip-hop, which was $1 million industry, and turned to a multi-billion-dollar industry. I don't think he really realized that he was being used as the leader of this new type of movement to make hip-hop pop, but also make a lot of the companies and maybe a lot of white America not have to deal with some of black hip-hop or Latino hip-hop like it was, because they would have Eminem. And I just felt like, since I had, the Source was a platform for politics, you know, Source was a platform to deal with these type of things. It just wasn't about music, it was about real issues. And, you know, me and Dave was the bosses of the Source. And, you know, at that time, you know, you're in New York City, everybody had to work for somebody. Me and Dave had stopped there. We was running a $100 million company, and we didn't have to answer to nobody. It would have been a lot easier for me to just sit back on money and just not let things bother me, but I'm not that type of person. I just felt like that somebody had to say something. You know, I know a lot of artists, you know, were trying to be politically correct at the time. My thing was like, you know, hip-hop, battling has been in hip-hop since day one. So, you know, I mean, it's not like I was a great lyricist. I just felt like I had an issue to stand on. And, you know, I had my platform, and I felt like, you know what I'm saying, I wanted to, you know, go against him. I just felt like there was a double standard in a lot of things that he was doing that other rappers that weren't white weren't be able to benefit from. And you know, looking at it in hindsight, you know, I went hard. He went hard. You know, he's a great lyricist. Of course, he's a better lyricist than me. You know, especially back then. You know, but you know, at the end of the day, it really wasn't about lyrics. It just was about trying to get a message across that hip hop is, you know, with guns and crack ravishing our hoods. You know, hip hop kind of brought that light to people where, you know, if my man got out of jail, I can give him a job, he can get a check. You know, because it's so hard for guys to get out of jail and get regular jobs because of them having records. You know, hip hop, that's where a lot of companies, a lot of black owned companies, Latino owned companies, minority owned companies were striving. I mean, they were flourishing. Clothing companies, products. You know, I just felt like he was the hood ornament for a vehicle that wanted to wipe all that out and wanted to control it and take the power and the money away from the streets and away from the independents. Looking back in hindsight, I went hard. You know, I definitely think some of the stuff I said about his, you know, his daughter and family, I would, you know, I definitely would take, if I could do it over again, I would leave that out of it. You know, but in war, you know how it is. There's a saying in war that, you know what I'm saying, that there is no, you know, there's no casualties in war. You gotta, you know what I'm saying, you gotta go for the jugular. But as I've grown older, I have my kids, you know what I'm saying, I'm raising 3 kids, you know what I'm saying, and yeah, I would have done it different. Also, I really didn't understand the meaning of being politically correct. You know, meaning you can't say what's always on your mind. And sometimes, you know, if it's bigger than you, you just have to sit back. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, I know those ain't how probably Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or, you know what I'm saying, Huey would want that, or anybody that stuck up. Gandhi, you know what I'm saying, William Wallace, you know what I mean? I mean, there's revolutionaries in all creeds and colors. You know, I don't think they would agree with what I'm saying now, but in this hip-hop industry, you know, you have to watch what you say. And you can't piss off the wrong people, and I pissed off a lot of people. And I don't want to think that, I don't want white America to think that I was going against white America. That's not it, because, I mean, hip-hop is such a beautiful thing that it was the only, really in the history of our planet, that brought the races together. I mean, the civil rights movement didn't do what hip-hop done. I mean, hip-hop made it so whereas that the white kid was like, yo, man, like, they all right. You know, we can really vibe out to them. I like the way they dressing, I like the music, and we have that in common. You know, that's really never, I don't think hip-hop really ever got its credit for that. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, Eminem deserves to represent hip-hop the color he is, just like everybody else. You know, and yes, he's a great artist. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like Benzino was mad because he was white and he was getting props. It was just the powers that be that run things. You know, I don't think they were too sensitive to the hood and to the independence, you know, and that's really what it really was about.
But that's Drake rapping. When he raps, he's one of the best, dog. Like, he says shit I've never heard before.
You don't. Like, I can't go in somebody else's house, and even though they let me wear their clothes and eat their food, that's not my house.